Okay, so I want to finish up talking about missing premises. And one thing I should add, we've been talking about missing premises. It's not just premises that can be implied or missing. Um, the conclusion of an argument might also be implied, right? And you guys might be asking yourselves, why are premises and conclusions missing so much? Why is this such an important skill? Well, one thing to just keep in mind is that in ordinary language, we don't always spell out what we mean because it would get really boring really fast. We count on the other person to reach the same conclusion that we do, or to fill in premises that we think they'll agree with or that are just common knowledge. To give you guys an example. That bridge doesn't look to be in good shape, and it's covered in ice and slippery. And if we fall off, there's a 15-foot drop into a rocky stream full of cold water, right? Imagine that you're hiking, if you guys have ever done this. It's so flat around here that, I don't know how far you could actually fall off a bridge. But, I used to go hiking. I lived in Tennessee. I'd go hiking in the Smokies a lot. And there are some scary, scary bridges in the national park in the Smokies. Um, I don't know what it's like to sue the National Park Service, but I can't believe they're there because they are dangerous. There's a couple, or they look dangerous. There's a couple I crossed. I'm like, oh my god, this is terrifying. Anyway, if you were hiking with somebody and you come to this awful looking bridge, and they give you this argument, it would be pretty clear what the conclusion was. You wouldn't have to ask, so we should take it, we shouldn't take it. What are you getting at? No, it's obvious if they give you these reasons, they are telling you, let's not take this bridge, right? That's perfectly fine in ordinary language. We count on people to fill in premises for us or to get what we're going with a conclusion all the time. In logic, we're going to want to spell out things in more detail, right? Things that might be clear, things that might be apparent in ordinary discourse and ordinary day-to-day talking with people. We want to be clear about. Now, as an aside, I'll just tell you guys, if you really start to think about this, it is amazing how much is just implied and not said in just everything we say. Let me give you guys an old philosopher's example. Imagine that you are running low on gas, you're in a strange town, or you're near a strange town, you see a dude out working in his yard. You know, use some imagination in the days when you couldn't just pull this up on the phone and you actually had to talk to strangers, right? And you're like, oh my goodness, you know, my car's about to run out of gas. Do you know where there's a gas station? And he says, yeah, you know, just keep going for a mile, go right on Miller's Road, and another half mile there'll be a gas station on your left. Now, if there was a gas station, that was only 500 feet away but was behind some trees, and he didn't tell you about it, you'd be mad, right, if you found that out, if you were running low on gas. If you go to the gas station that he points out to you and it's closed and it's been closed for a year, you'd be mad at this guy. Or if it's always closed on Sunday and it's Sunday, right? But you didn't literally ask him, where is the nearest open gas station? You literally ask him, where is a gas station? I'm running low on gas, right? And when he tells you this, he doesn't say, well, this is the nearest open gas station where you can get some gas. He just says, well, here's a gas station, right? All of that stuff, where's the nearest open gas station? Here's where the nearest open one is. That's all implied in a very few words. It's really amazing how much we communicate without saying it, right? Anyway, it's amazing, but it also can make things hard for us in logic, right? Because, we want to be explicit about premises. Well, in ordinary language, we just go around assuming things. Now, this brings us to a really important question, a really important and kind of hard question. How far do we go with filling in missing premises? we can easily take this to an absurd and unhelpful length. Let me give you guys an example. That bridge doesn't look to be in good shape. The bridge is covered nice and slippery. If we fall off it, then there's a 15-foot drop into a rocky stream full of cold water. Let's not take the bridge, or we shouldn't take the bridge, right? This is a perfectly good argument. I really don't think anything needs to be spelled out. But even this argument, you could say, assumes some stuff that it doesn't say, right? That bridge doesn't look to be in good shape. Well, bridges that aren't in good shape are more likely to collapse. The bridge is slippery, we're more likely to fall from it. The bridge is covered nice and slippery. If we fall off, there's a 15-foot drop into a rocky stream full of cold water. If we fall 15 feet into a rocky stream full of cold water, we are likely to be hurt or killed. Being hurt or killed is bad. If something is bad, we should try to avoid it. We shouldn't take the bridge, right? Look, I do all this because this is just absurd, right? Nobody needs A, B, C, D, E here, right? The argument was already very clear as it was. This is just kind of dumb, right? Even though this is all assumed, if this was all kind of implicit there, it's kind of dumb to spell it out to fill the missing bits in so explicitly. So how do we fill in? How do we make sure we're not going to dumb lengths? Now, as Lavin points out, when you get to deductive logic is almost, when you get to symbolic propositional logic, which we will in a few weeks, it's like math. In the same way that if you have an equation, 2y equals x, well, x is 1, you can know how much x is relative to y. Well, in the same way, when you have deductive logic, if there's a premise the argument needs to work, you'll know what to fill in the same way you know what you need to fill in an equation, right? It's really neat in that respect. But in ordinary language, one of the problems with symbolic logic is it's really cumbersome, it's really difficult, it's kind of a pain in the neck to put things in that form. So it's good to know what we need to add in ordinary language and what we don't, right? And lots of arguments won't be deductive. The sort of mathematical approach we'll learn in a few weeks only works for deductive arguments. It doesn't work for inductive. So, we'll help with some practical guidelines. I would say this. When you're filling in missing premises, don't go any further than is helpful. The whole point of the exercise is to better understand the argument to see if it works. We already understand this argument pretty darn well. It's not complicated. It's not difficult to see how it works. One of the things that makes spelling out missing premises useful is that it brings assumptions we might not accept into clearer focus, right? The other person will assume things. They might sneak by us, but when we spell them out, we're like, wait, I don't know that I assumed that myself, right? That makes this useful. But if it's something that any idiot accepts, like being hurt or killed is bad, it's not really helpful to spell that out because we all accept it and nobody's going to push back. So, if assumption is something everybody accepts, if it's not controversial, if it's obvious, not a whole lot is gained by spelling it out, filling in the missing premise. So remember, we had those other 3 guidelines for filling in missing premises. We say, well, narrows the logical gap between what is said and the conclusion. It is likely to be true, and it has to fit with what the person says. I would add a 4th guideline for filling in missing premises, and that is only take the time to fill them in if it's not obviously true. If they are, and we'll talk more about these terms in a few weeks, if they are controversial or dubious. But even now, I hope you guys can get um, a sense of what is controversial or not, right? Being hurt or killed is bad is not controversial. If, you know, my argument required, let's say I was making an argument against abortion or physician assisted suicide, and my argument required some sort of religious claim, like, I was quoting the Bible, you know, I might be religious. I might think these are pretty clear, but that's controversial because other people are not going to accept that, right? Anyway, we'll talk a lot more about what's controversial in a few weeks, but, just for now, if something's obvious, if everybody would accept it, it really doesn't gain you a lot to try to spell it out in talking about missing premises. So just don't worry about it. When I ask you guys to fill these in, it'll usually be very clear what I want. A lot of times on the test, it will probably even be multiple choice. Just, so nobody can complain that it's subjective. All right. I hope that does give you a better sense of how this works and what we're doing, right? I mean, look, the whole point of this is not, oh, wow, these argument diagrams are fun and pretty and whatever. It's a nice, fun little game. Now, the whole point is to give you a tool that helps you to better understand arguments and to better sort out good arguments from bad arguments. So keep that in mind when you're filling in missing premises. If it doesn't help you to do that, there's just not much point to it.